Unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with your hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Here we focus on helping men and those with men in their lives solve some of life's complex challenges through understanding the practices of mindfulness and how they can help. Each episode is in an environment free of judgment and criticism, with a focus on authenticity and inner peace. Let's dig in.
Every time I think I've heard your best episode, there's another gem. Today's podcast, OMG, everything I needed to hear. I've been toxic and I've put up with it from others and then let it really affect my self-worth. Love this episode. Mercy towards myself and towards others. That's a quote from one of our listeners. We are wrapping up another season. This is the end of season 5. Thank you. Thank you to our audience for quotes like that, reviews like that. Stuff like that keeps me and Will going. And who are we? Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness. I'm John McCaskill here in Colorado Springs. Each week, my co-host, Will Schneider, there in New York City, and I work to break down and demystify an aspect of mindfulness and make it meaningful to you. In this season 5 finale, we're going to talk about how all the talks have changed us. What we've talked about this week, it's been more than this week, this season. What we've talked about this season has helped to not only change our audience, but it literally has changed us. And we want to talk about that. We want to dive into what practices we learned and what we use now, how that has changed us, and the relationships with ourselves, the relationships with our friends, with our family. Whatever changes have come forth because of the interviews we've done, and then also because of you, our audience, because again, of quotes like that, reviews like that, that really hit home and show us why this show is important. That said, I'm going to jump into a few announcements. First, for those of you watching next week, this is going to actually air next week on December 9th. That is the day before the Army-Navy football game. So I am wearing a Navy jersey right here in honor of two things. One, again, when this airs, it's the day before the Army-Navy football game. So go Navy, beat Army. And number two, I'm specifically wearing number 38. I'm going to try to turn on two cameras here so you can see here. But I'm specifically wearing number 38 in honor of a good friend of mine's brother. So my good friend, Brant McCartney, whose brother is Matt Brewer, he played middle linebacker at the Naval Academy, where he wore the number 38, and then served in the Marine Corps for 8 years before transitioning to be a firefighter in Kansas City. In February of last year, so February of 2021, Matt died by suicide, and Brant has since started a 501c3 in honor of Matt to raise awareness of veteran suicide and to raise money for post-traumatic stress disorder, TBI, and CTE research and awareness. Check out more about Brant and the 38 Challenge at the38challenge.com. That's the number 38 challenge.com. All right. Next, save the date. Save the date, May 18th through the 21st. This is going to be our second mindfulness adventure retreat, which will be taking place on the East Coast in upstate New York. We are in the process of finalizing all the details as we speak, but save that date because it is going to be an awesome weekend. We did one last September in Durango, and we'll do another one this September in Durango, this next coming September in Durango. But space will be limited, so make sure you save those dates. And then Will is offering the Wednesday weekly refresh, midweek refresh on Insight Timer. So if you want to know more about that, check it out on Will's Instagram, IG. Follow Will on Instagram, and then he will tell you more about the time and date. But it's every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. No experience needed. Just show up, and Will guide you through a midweek refresh. And then lastly, my voice is starting to fail me, man. But lastly, follow us on YouTube. We love our audience, and we think that the content that our guests put out, and then occasionally Will and I have some gems. We think that what we put out there is pretty good, and we hope that you would share it with your friends and your family. But follow us, subscribe on YouTube. There is a new link. Just simply go to youtube.com/@ Men Talking Mindfulness. So youtube.com/@ Men Talking Mindfulness. And that is all I've got. Will, let's kick it off with an opening practice, brother.
Yeah. Before we do, hey, my Instagram handle is at Will Not Fear. That's WILLNOTFEAR. Will Not Fear on Inside Timer or Instagram, so you can get to me Inside Timer. Also, we're going to start taking reservations and have a holiday special for that May retreat in upstate New York. May 15th is our deadline here as a team that we're trying to get everything out and ready to go. So hopefully you can join us and save some money if you sign up, before a certain time in January that we'll determine eventually as well. So awesome. Let's breathe and we'll jump into this episode, John. So we got our 5-breath kind of reset. You can do this anywhere, anytime as well. That's why this is a great reminder, not just to ground the show, but it is a great reminder that you can do this anytime you're kind of feeling stressed, just feeling anxious, feeling, just flustered or whatever, that's taking you away from being like a more conscious person. So let's exhale out your mouth. Good. Empty completely. Beautiful. And take a big balloon breath in. And let that go softly. And relax. Feel your shoulders melt down your back and your face soften. And again, in breath. Exhaling softly. Again. See if you can drop the breath deeper and fill it up even higher at the top of the inhale and let it go out. Maybe these last two, you make some contact with your torso. Hand on belly, hand on chest. Again, inhale. Feel that balloon in your body. Let it go. And last one, inhale. Let's just hold this inhale for 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale out. All right. Open your eyes when you're ready. Come back. Make those micro movements that we keep using and we learned about on the show, right, John? That's right. What we're here to talk about today is like not just what we learned and not just a summary of, it was actually why we're doing it. Something we changed it and made it a little bit more focused because we checked our numbers on the last season finale and then just, we had a bunch of listeners, but no one actually listened. Right. So we're like, all right, let's make it a little
few seconds.
Yeah, exactly. It was like it was like 35 seconds. Like, fuck this. I know what they have already said. So we decided to, like John had said in the beginning, it's like, really, what do we learn and how are we putting this into practice? How is it changing our lives and our relationships and all those wonderful things? And that's why we do the show. I mean, it's selfish pursuit in some ways because we get to learn all these wonderful things and present all this incredible information. But also it's like, I definitely am practicing things differently. My life is different. And one thing, first thing that came up for us, John, and kudos to both of us for believing in the abundance of the universe, believing what we're doing here. Like you have a new office, you got a new truck, I got a new apartment. You know what I mean? Like seriously, like those are changes that we made this year by just trusting the work that we're putting out there, how we're doing it, the teamwork we've created and other aspects of our lives as well. But we've just taken a big fucking step forward and be like, you know what? This is how I'm going to live my life, putting a stake in the ground, whether it's the truck or the bigger office or my apartment. And that's one.
Need to buy a jet.
That's after season 6.
That's season 6.
That's after season 6. But that's a great place to start. I think it's there's something about what I'm understanding, John, is just really trusting. Just trust what you're doing if it's coming from like a passionate, heartfelt place that really has adding value to the world, and things just start to fall into place.
No doubt,
just by following that listen to the heart and passion. Yeah,
exactly. There you hit the nail on the head that I was going to jump on here in a second. Is in this season we interviewed Dr. Jim Doty, the author of Into the Magic Shop, and we've talked about that book quite a few times on our show. Will has been taking the compassion course at CCARE out of Stanford, and one of the things that Jim Doty talks about is, you can in fact manifest things in your life through, the work that you do in meditation, mindfulness, but it's also very important that you do so with an open heart, right? Do so with that open heart, with the right reason, with the right intention and thought behind it. And that's when you really start to benefit from it. It's not about the sure, we've done this. We've taken the step by getting the bigger office and a truck and a bigger apartment, but that is actually forcing us to do the work rather than the other way around, right? It wasn't. We're not trying to. I don't want a whole lot of things, because as Jim talks about, and this is one of the things that has changed in my mind and in my life in this season. The pursuit of happiness. What is the pursuit of happiness? So many of us are like, well, if I reach the next level, if I get the promotion, if I get the new car, if I get a huge house, if I get the island, right? Jim Doty was about to buy an island. If we get these things, we're going to be happy. But in actuality, it's not about that. It's about having compassion and love and people that you care about in your life. And that's always been a part of who I am, and it continues to be, but it's just been deepened in having conversations with people like Jay Fields and Jim Doty, some of our guests this season. But let's talk about how this season, the guests that we've had on, the reading that we've had on, the work that we've been doing, and how our audience has changed us, man. I think there's so many different facets to this. So where do you want to start?
I'll just jump right in, John. I have a bunch of notes here.
Yeah.
One thing that really, we had a lot of amazing guests, but one thing that really, once Dan St. Pierre came on and talked about, we had I forget the name, actually was like
Heartfulness.
about heartfulness, right?
Yeah.
And what is heartfulness, and what does that mean? All those, and how do you get there? How does it help us? And once, because I read, about half of his manuscript on the United Anatomy of Being. Hopefully, he's going to publish that soon. And Dan's been just a really great friend of mine for, my God, since I've been like 15, which is wild. To have someone in my life for so long and also be in this work as well.
And wait a minute. And real quick, while you're talking about 15, when is your birthday? You got a birthday coming up, don't you?
I do. Actually, I have a party. Anyone in New York, come to my party. If you
Anyone in New York.
Well, not anyone, our listeners out there, our people, right? So I'm having actually a party on next Saturday, December 10th. But my birthday is officially the 24th of December. And people hearing that, would be like, oh, he must have been screwed as a kid. Yes, I was. I think that's part of my trauma. That's probably why I got into mindfulness and meditation, so I can let go of that trauma and let go of that story.
My sister-in-law shares that. She's got December 25th, man. So, and her name is Mary. So, good luck. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. And she was probably in the manger as Mary, right? When she was older, right? Just like, oh yeah, hey, what a great way to celebrate your birthday.
Sorry, man, I interrupted you, bro.
No, that's okay. And it's been a lot. It's made me who I am, I like to say, and it's drawn me into this place of heartfulness, John, that I kept hearing, throughout. Once Dan brought that up and kind of and really started studying that, understanding that, I started hearing it in so many other places. And one thing that really has helped me, and that's why I took the CCARES class, the Cultivating Compassion after, James Doty. So much of this season was about understanding the energy of the heart, and how it affects my everything. And one thing that's really key about the heart is it's, and Dan explains it beautifully, it calls it unifying energy. And I've started hearing that more, like unifying energy, whereas separate energy. The mind is separating energy, and they're both as equal. They're both as important, but there's a difference between living a life of being heart centric or mind centric, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're and having this unifying energy of the heart, when you're working from a place of being heart centric. I'm living, and I learned to trust my heart by being more heart-centric. I feel connected on purpose. I have a deep knowing that everything's going to work out exactly as it should at the time that it should. And there's also, when things don't go the way that I wanted, or the timing of them are off. This is my mind impressing its will on the ego, or on the world. There's a lot of lessons to be learned as well, and learning those lessons instead of the mind would put you kind of in a victim box maybe, or something like that. And the right people and the right circumstances will show up when they need to. I feel tapped into the pace of nature, and also the peace of nature. There's a great natural peace that exists in all these wonderful plants I have in my apartment, and every single creation that's out there it comes from a place of stillness, comes from a place of peace, and it's also that heart-centric place, and really trying to continually do everything from that place, whether it's I'm having a conversation, whether it's I'm teaching, whether I'm doing a podcast with you, John. There's always this happiness and joy and peacefulness that kind of, I guess it's how the expression is being broadcast through that energy, and from like a place of empathy, from a place of compassion. Whereas like the mind, and the mind's a great, is an amazing tool. And I think that's one thing that we need to make a distinction on, is like the mind is just a tool, instead of it being, like mission control, if you will, right? Let the heart be mission control, right? Like get into that space of like, and that awareness as well, John, that we always talk about, that we're always trying, that is who we are at our essence, is just this incredible energetic awareness that has been baffling humanity ever since we became conscious. The mind, it just separates things, like I've said this before in the show, it's dissects, judges things, and discerns. And it's important, because, we need to know the difference between, things around us, so we can, navigate it through the world effectively, but not like go so deep into the mind that everything is divided. And therefore, when we start dividing things further and further and further, we just get deeper into this separating energy and these separating states, that we just start to, as we keep dividing, then it's like, and we keep judging. It's like, this is an enemy, or that's working for me, that's not working for me. And again, those distinctions are good, but what ties all that division together is the heart. And then we can really start to make sense of it from a heart-centric place. So that, that's just a little touching onto the things I'm learning about the heart. But I don't know what comes up for you when I say that, John, or has that been part of your experience this year in the season?
Yes, but to answer the way your first question is kind of what comes up. A lot of the time what we talk about with meditation and mindfulness is that meditation allows you to take that step back, take a pause, but between a thought, an emotion, and action. And in doing so, we always say, well, in doing that, you make a more rational decision, and not an emotional decision. And in all honesty, I think in saying don't make an emotional decision, we're discounting the emotions. We're discounting the heart. And I think that there's actually value in listening to those emotions, and then mixing in, like you said, you have to have both, right? That heart-centric living and mind-centric. It's not exclusively mind-centric, and it's not exclusively heart-centric. It's having both. And when you can recognize the emotions, be aware what's driving those, be aware that there are actually neurons in your heart, right? There are neurons in your heart. That's a lot of people don't realize that there are neurons in your heart. There's neurons in your gut. That's why they say, go with your gut feeling. How does it feel in your gut? There's actually neurons there. But the thought to make a singularly rational, mind-centric decision, that discounts the heart. I think you hit on the fact that we need to have them together. Notice what you are feeling, notice what you're thinking, bring them together to make a decision based on both. And sometimes there's going to be times when the heart is the right decision, and sometimes it can be times when the mind is makes the right decision. But mix them both. But the the heart-centric and heartfulness thinking, I think that often drives your why you
There
do
you go.
about
Yes,
anything,
exactly.
right?
Mhm.
Why you get up in the morning and why you go to work, and what, certainly, yeah, the rational side of that is, hey, I need to go and put money on the or I need to put money into the bank so that I can put food on the table and everything else. We understand that, but there's also an emotional aspect to that. And I think that's what really creates a sense of happiness and fulfillment, is if you're matching that why with your actions, right?
Yeah.
And that side of things also, by recognizing the emotions, I think allows you to tap into what we talked about so much this season, was vulnerability. And
Yeah. All the time.
what we
Mm.
had to display this season, it was scary, right? When we sat down, we're like, hey, what are some topics that we want to talk about? It was we talked about, hey, let's talk about fear. Let's talk about toxic relationships. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. Let's talk about negative body image. Let's talk about envy. And when we made that list, I'm like, oh shit, we're actually gonna have to talk about some stuff that
We're gonna have to show up.
we're gonna have to show up, right? We're gonna have to show up. But in doing so, I think it further connected the two of us with one another.
Mm,
It connected us with ourselves, which is huge, and it connected us with our audience. Again, back to you as our audience. So many people came out after some of those episodes that I talked about. The toxic relationships, the fear, negative body image, imposter syndrome, envy, and they're like, holy shit, that's what I needed to hear. I needed to hear that episode at this time in my life. So by expressing that vulnerability, it connected us all. And that's what really helped change me, is we have, I believe, connected with our audience on a much deeper level than we have in the past. Because we were we got into that uncomfortable, like, vulnerability side of things, right? Again, sharing about where we had felt we had been in toxic relationships, or where we had felt we were the toxic ones in a relationship, where we felt that we had negative body image challenges. That was scary to share that, but it connected us, and I think our audience benefited from it, and then we benefited from our audience benefiting from it, if that makes sense.
No,
What that has done, what else has happened in this season, at least for me?
Well, let me just jump. Give me 1 second. So, John, that vulnerability, though, it's like it comes. One thing, another big concept I learned as far as the heart goes, is this common humanity, right? And that just understanding that common humanity, right? And actually, when we get into a vulnerable state, right, we kind of take away the veneer of the mind, and it's like, look how, I'm this or I'm that, or like positioning ourselves in a way that, like, hey, look how smart I am, or look how sexy I am, or look, you know what I mean? Look how, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, all those things we talked about in the imposter syndrome, but we let go. I mean, underneath the imposter is some sort of fear, and what helps to eradicate fear is just getting vulnerable and shining light on it and be like, you know what, I'm struggling here, and in that place of struggle, and that's why part of developing self-compassion, the second aspect of developing self-compassion, is recognizing a common humanity. You're recognizing, like, I'm not the only one that suffered this way. I'm not the only one that, whatever that suffering is, others people are suffering exactly like that right now, or have suffered, billions of other souls have suffered the same way in the past and will in the future as well. And that's like, that it requires that vulnerability. And it taps us into that common humanity. And there's something about, when I recognize, or anybody recognizes, like, or opens up to that vulnerability, or allows themselves to be vulnerable and really be seen and really be heard, it comes from this unifying energy and this broadcast energy of the heart that, do you ever hear of someone say, like, oh, I feel you? Right. That's not the mind, right? That's like, you're feeling it. You're feeling it from the soul. You're feeling it from the heart. And then you're connecting instantly with that person. And I've seen this in, a lot of classes I've taught too, and I'll bring up something, or I'll like talk about a particular whatever struggle I'm having in class as a way to help, my students understand that, we all suffer. And and you can see them even feel that, or I can feel them feeling that, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's this, it's that I think it's that limbic part of our brain that doesn't have the capacity for language, and that's kind of like that's the intelligence of the heart kind of speaking through us. But yeah, you're gonna say,
Yeah, no,
mhm,
I'm I'm glad you interrupted me because I love everything you just covered there
mhm.
because of how important that shared humanity is, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
connecting on that level as well, not just the intellectual level.
yeah.
That's what really makes relationships, not not just we're not just colleagues. We actually have an emotional connection. I'm not talking
Mm,
about us. I'm talking about in workplaces.
mm,
We're not just family members. We actually have an emotional connection. We're not just friends. We actually do have an emotional connection, and that's what I think makes a relationship happier and healthier, and then makes you want to foster that relationship that much more. Now, what else I was going to cover or talk about in regards to that vulnerability, we had Jay Fields on talking
mm,
about building that emotional stability.
mm,
And when I say emotional stability, I'm not talking like stoicism. I'm talking being okay with the emotions that you're experiencing. And one thing that I love that she said
mm,
is that when you experience an emotion, taking a step back and saying, you know what? Of course I feel this way. Of
mm,
course I feel this way. And kind of giving yourself that grace, right? We've talked about giving yourself grace a lot on this show. But when you take a look at your circumstances, the context of your life that you're in right now, and you're feeling an emotion, a lot of the time you start to, if you don't have that context, you start to beat yourself up for the emotions that you're feeling. You're like, oh fuck, I'm such an idiot. I shouldn't be feeling sad. I shouldn't be feeling angry. I shouldn't be feeling frustrated. I shouldn't be feeling depressed. I shouldn't be feeling anxious. But then when you take a breath and you're like, of course I feel this way. Of course I feel anxious because I don't know, maybe I have a big presentation tomorrow, or of course I feel stressed because, my kids are sick and I'm trying to make them feel healthy. Of course I feel sad because I've just lost a friend. And when you say that, of course I feel this way, that really helps to build that emotional stability. Like, okay, you give yourself
mm.
credit, you give yourself that grace, and you're okay with feeling that in the moment. Which brings in that self compassion that we talked a lot about on this season. So I think the vulnerability, the self compassion, the compassion for others, that emotional stability, that built a lot. But we also had, and this seems like they're completely um, antithetical from one another. Did I say that right? Anyway, it seems like they're opposing, is what I'm trying to say. So um, we had 4 fellow SEALs on this season. So we
Oh
had,
yeah, we had a bunch this year.
yeah, we had a bunch. So Remy Adeleke, Steve Drum, Errol Dobler, and William Branham. And there was a lot of talk about what typically SEALs you wouldn't imagine are going to come on a podcast to talk about. They talked about meditation, they talked about mindfulness, they talked
Mm,
about getting in touch with your emotions, but they did also talk about the pushing your physical boundaries. And that's where
there you
I'm thinking,
go.
like, okay, so people are like, oh well, they listen to the show, they hear us talk about giving yourself grace, vulnerability, all this stuff, but then they also hear these guests coming on talking about pushing your physical boundaries. And those at first glance seem like they're opposing, but they're not. I think that building emotional stability, that having compassion, that vulnerability, those are strengths. And then the physical strength comes into it. And then, like, I know one of the things that has changed in you physically is that you're doing Remy Adeleke's treadmill challenge, right?
Fuck
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I've done it a few times, and it's brutal. But it's not just about the physical side of that. It's like, okay, while you're on that treadmill and you're trying to reach whatever time that you've set for yourself, you're actually building that emotional stability. You're actually aware that you're hurting and you're being vulnerable. Um, you're having compassion for yourself, but then you're also pushing past your physical boundaries. So I think it's really neat that we have these seemingly uh, completely different messages that we're sending, But really, if you peel back the onion, we're really talking about the same thing. They all go hand in hand. And so that's one thing that, not one thing, but multiple things that I believe have changed in me, is that I continue to express that vulnerability and getting used to being vulnerable and how that is a strength. Developing that emotional stability and saying, well, of course I feel this way right now. And that's helped me in my personal life, in my marriage, in my professional life, having that self-compassion, but also physically working to build myself up again. Because I've at times let myself go. And now I'm like, you know what, the physical side and the mind and the spirit, as we teach with Dr. Teresa Larson, they all go together. When you work on one, you work on the others. So now I've been rambling a lot, man. So
no, not at all. I mean, to come back to the physical part of it, it's like what an extreme challenge. It helps me to face my weaker mind, if you will. I really get in touch with those voices like, oh man, just slow down a little bit. Or just, you know what I mean? Or and it's funny, like the more my heart, right? The more my heart rate goes up, the more I'm just like, oh fuck, man. And the longer the time goes, it's just like it's brutal. It's really, really brutal. To do this treadmill challenge, for example. And I know you're
tell our audience who may have missed the Remy Adeleke episode what it is, what the treadmill challenge is.
So treadmill challenge is you set the same parameters and don't change them, right? So what's great about I tried to do this in elliptical, right? I was like, oh, I'll just do the same thing elliptical, but I can slow down my pace in elliptical. What's nice about the treadmill, you set the same pace. So it works at a 15.
Holds you accountable.
Exactly, it does. So I'm at 15% incline, which is no joke at all, right? And you're only walking, right? And you're walking at a pace. Depends, I guess. I would start, if anybody out there that hasn't done this challenge yet, and I've connected with. What's nice about this challenge, John, and also what I'm trying to do, just not keep going, but I post on Instagram immediately, and just talk about my experience, what the struggle was, like if I did change a parameter, and then, not beating myself up. But so it's 15% incline. I would, start at minimum of like 3.2 miles an hour, maybe going up to 4.2, or eventually working in that. That's brutal, right? I mean,
I've done 3.8. I have not gone over 4 yet.
I've gotten to 4. I'll start going up at the end instead of going down. I'll go up,
So if you change your parameter, you're going up.
Yeah, if I'm going typically. Sometimes I'm like, depending whether it's a morning in the afternoon or something like that, or how inspired I am, or if I ate something, whatever. Like, so maybe I'll slow down. Maybe I'll touch. I touched the rails yesterday a little bit. And I was like, but not beat myself up. I was like, I know. I didn't. I'm learning. I'm learning. Getting stronger. I am. But so then just doing that for like 20 minutes, or I go up to like 21 or 22 minutes now. I'm just really trying to push it more and more and more. And I just keep going. I put a great playlist on and to get inspired. And I just
got a great Metallica playlist.
Yeah, right. Awesome. I found that on Spotify. And, it's really intense. But I'm also checking my breath as well as I do that. The breath is so much of all the mindfulness practice. I'm really trying to also understand my breath. Like what if I breathe through my nose a little slower, exhale a little bit faster? So this has been a really great challenge. I do this 3 or 4 days a week. And I feel it in my body all the time. Like my legs are getting stronger, and my heart is getting stronger. I'm actually because of the Whoop, which we talk about all the time on the show. I'm trying to see if I can get my HRV to go up. I want to raise my overall HRV level, and definitely it has been changing slightly. My HRV numbers are low. Right. Like, people are in the hundreds or 120, my max I've ever had is like 60, but HRV is different for everybody and every heart and every body. So that's the treadmill challenge, but it's another, I get to see my mind. I get to see the cleverness or the nefariousness, if you will, of my mind trying to oh no, you can just touch the rails, or you've done 13 minutes, Will, already kicking your ass, maybe just take a break, touch the rails, slow down a little bit. And I'm just like, no, I'm just going to keep going. Like I heard,
real quick, I don't want to get too far down the treadmill challenge, but I do want to hit on something. Again, this sounds like we're talking out of two sides of our mouth, but we're not. So Will talked about changing the parameters when there's a reason. It's not an excuse, right? So maybe he ate something that's going to make him vomit on the treadmill. Maybe that's a time that he needs to back off.
Right.
But if he's just kind of feeling sorry for himself, and he wants to change it because of that, that's kind of an excuse, right?
Right.
And so there's a difference in giving yourself grace and giving yourself outs. That's what I talk about that quite often when I do keynote speaking.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It's a huge difference.
Right.
And people think a lot of the time when they're giving themselves grace, they're actually giving themselves outs, and vice versa. Sometimes they are actually giving themselves an out, but they're so determined to stick to the plan that they won't give themselves that they think they're giving themselves out, but really they could give themselves grace. But they won't, and they'll injure themselves. They'll make themselves sick. It's the difference between when that alarm clock goes off in the morning and you could hit snooze, right? Well, if you hit snooze, are you hitting snooze because you're being lazy, or are you hitting snooze because you truly need that extra 15 minutes of laying in bed and it's going to make you better? And there's nothing else that you could do. If you get up 15 minutes earlier, are you going to be any different, or are you actually going to be worse? So it's that difference. It's knowing when you can actually give yourself grace and when you're giving yourself an out. So sorry.
No. You did that. You did that very well. I remember when we were in the Durango retreat in September, our first retreat, like you're not practicing, you're training for the Ironman, or no, the triathlon, the half Ironman, exactly. And also, I mean, just that right there, you're connected to higher purpose because it was for somebody else, and you're competing with somebody else, which brings up that that energy within us. And there was one time, we worked a full day. We're taking care of all these students, and really talk about giving, right? And giving is exhausting sometimes, in the most beautiful ways, but it's still exhausting. And you're just like, I think I'm going to give myself the grace tonight and not do my 2-hour bike ride. And I was like, good idea, John,
Yeah.
But it's like
at that point, you pass the point of, you not only pass the point of diminishing returns, you're not getting in returns. You're actually going into negatives, right? At some point. So, again, I digress, man. I've gone down a rabbit hole with the challenge.
I mean, but the physical stuff. I mean, no, the physical stuff. Just we'll wrap this up. Like when I challenge myself, nothing happens till something changes, right? Nothing, right? And the best way to create change, or in my experience, is to push beyond your boundaries, and that could be a physical limitation or like a psychological limitation. But the way I get into my psychological limitations is when I push myself physically. When I need to learn a new skill, or I need to challenge myself, challenge the capacity that what my body can do now, and go a little bit further. And I sense that vulnerability. I receive rewards as well when I do this. I get, dopamine hits because I'm learning new skills, or because I'm just the strenuousness that comes with the actual physical activity I'm doing. And those rewards, I get inspired and I get to know myself in a deeper way, but I also walk away. It's like, I can do that. And what else can I do? Or also there's nothing I can't do that I don't put the time in and have a plan and attack it.
Right.
So,
yeah. So, for our audience, I know we've talked about some things that have changed in us. This and complete transparency for our audience, we are recording this a week prior, just because of the Army-Navy game, and I will be traveling. I'm actually going to be meeting Command Sergeant Major Gretchen Evans. If you don't know who she is, look her up. She's an amazing woman. Also has a great nonprofit that she's running. Look in her, but I'm going to be meeting her. That's why we're recording this. And the reason I'm saying that is we'd still love to hear from you in the comments right here as this is streaming, or in the podcast, or on social media later. How has this season changed you? We would love to know. And then over and above that, what in particular changed you in that way? And then for our audience, Will, how can they make the changes if they haven't made them? What can they start implementing in their lives Or what can we, if we've missed the boat, what can we all as a group, collective, us and our audience, do to further change ourselves in a positive way? How can we get there?
Yeah, I just had a buzz at my door. I'm gonna
Oh
leave it
man.
alone. It's like, I was like, "What the fuck is
You
that?"
got the Uber Eats coming in, right? Uber
Yeah,
Eats.
if they buzz again, I'm gonna have to leave, John. You're gonna be solo for a few
All
minutes,
right.
but
All
we'll
right.
see.
Easy.
We'll see. We'll see. Like, the one thing about I love
Raw,
my
uncut,
place.
and
The only
unapologetic.
I know the only thing I don't like about this place, the one thing is I'm up on the third floor, which isn't bad. And as I walk up, I need to go downstairs and let people in instead of hit the buzzer and let the
Oh,
door unlock and come up. So it's the
it's part
only
of the workout,
bad
man.
thing. Yeah,
Part
I
of the
know. I
workout.
know. I must be getting a package, but I know it is part of the workout, right? It's like I'm
Yeah.
thinking of the treadmill challenge. So the question is how
Yeah.
how do we get to change or like how do
Yeah.
we
So
really
how
start the
do
change?
yeah, I mean, obviously, I know, and we've got this in our notes, right? How to get here and remain here.
Hmm.
And obviously, men talking mindfulness. One of the things that we talk about on every single show
Yeah.
is mindfulness, is
Right.
meditation,
Yeah.
doing the work, right? Putting in the
Right.
effort, setting aside the time, and actually doing it.
Yeah.
So, that's a big piece of it, and it's not just going to improve you mentally, but it is going to open up your heart. It's going to get you to be more compassionate. It's going to allow you to be more vulnerable with yourself and with those that you love and those around you, which is a strength. It's a superpower,
Mm.
as we've talked about on the show before. But yeah, let's talk about some more of those.
I
Unless
think
there's something else that you want to talk about that has changed in you over the season.
um and I think there's a lot that's changed, John. Um but it's really finding my heart and being connected to my heart, know how to begin to use the power within the heart through meditation, through that that common humanity, understanding self-compassion, and therefore I can be compassionate for others. I mean, that's just huge. I mean, it's changed so much. I've had a few psychedelic experiences this year, and what do they do? And that's one thing, like, that's one way that continually reinforces everything that I'm doing, the trust that I feel in the work that I do. That comes from the heart and living in a place of passion. But it's all the psychedelics is something that it's helped me understand, or continually brings me back into the place of being kind, being with peace, being with the pace of nature, being a loving being, and then bringing love into the world. I mean, so that's one thing that's definitely helped me as well. And there's no shortage of, we have Beckley retreats. I mean, right? Like that,
Yeah.
they're kind of, we're
Yep.
partners with them, and if that's something that you're looking to do, that could be, check with your doctor. We're not experts at all. We just have experiences. But that could be a great way to start to make some change, and just a little foreshadowing of, or is that foreshadowing, I guess, or just a little what's going to happen in season
Yeah, that's
6.
foreshadowing.
Yeah, John and I are going to we hooked in with a ketamine therapy organization, and they're going to give us both several free sessions on ketamine, it's a dissociative, which we talked about, I think, in season 4 or something, or 3. But it does have psychedelic qualities, and we are going to go through their program, and we're going to have one of their doctors on and talk about ketamine next season. So
Yeah.
as another way to heal, as another way to get in deeper into your heart, another way to also has a massive impact on depression. They've just proven to treat what they say untreatable pharmaceutical depression. They're saying that ketamine works tremendously for those kind of conditions of depression. Anyway, I think another thing that's great besides like challenging yourself physically is like hanging around positive people, like
For
Dr. Rob
sure.
Kelly, right? Either you show me your
Yeah.
friends, I'll show you your future. So shitty friends, shitty future, right? Positive, loving, kind friends, positive, loving, kinder future for sure. And so that's something that I'm very aware of. Like I'm very picky about the friends that I want to spend time with, because I don't want to be sucked into their drama, or and I sound and like apathetic, or uncompassionate in that way, just speaking that way. But it's like you got to protect. I need to protect my heart. I need to protect my mind. I need to protect my time and my
Yeah.
energy. And it's like I that's just not something
Well,
where I want to go. Yeah.
those positive people, the obviously the flip side is negative people. That's easy. But
Mm.
like what is negative about those people? A lot of the time they are those toxic people that we talked about. And a lot of the time they are full of drama, right? So that they
No
are
shit.
often looking for things to pick at in other people so that they can build themselves up. And in doing so, they are bringing drama and toxicity into your relationship with them. And there's a good chance those people who are talking shit about you. So, get rid of them, get rid of the toxic people, the negative people in your life, hanging around those positive people who are have similar ideals and values. Not they don't have to have similar thoughts, right? There's value in having diversity in your friend group, in your colleagues, but but if they have values and ideals that are completely negative, then that's where it starts to get, for lack of a better term right now, almost dangerous to your health, dangerous to who you are, and it can actually start to change you for the worse. So yeah, definitely hanging around positive people, loving
Huge.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, kind people. Yeah, exactly. People that are kind of aligned with your vibe.
Yeah.
I've I don't know what I have, like, we talked about I'm maintaining a healthy body. This is like one thing that's, very, very important. If you want to make change, then you have to honor and respect the healthy requirements of the body. Like, you
Right.
just can't get away from it. And when you do, when you're drink too much, have too much sugar,
Oh
indulge in
man.
whatever it is, right? I mean, you are gonna suffer, and you're gonna suffer physically, mentally, and emotionally,
And it
because
comes fast, man.
it comes really fast, really, really
Like
fast. Yeah.
tiny things. So sorry to interrupt, man, but
No.
like Thanksgiving break, hanging out with some of my old high school friends. I went back to my childhood hometown, and I posted this on LinkedIn. But for those of you who don't follow me or maybe didn't see this, but yeah, again, Will and I wear the Whoop that
Whoop,
tracks
there
our
it is.
heart rate variability, resting heart rate, recovery, and things. And I had not done anything physically hard the day before, but I went out with some old friends, had 2 scotches, 2.
Oof,
Okay,
yeah.
not a huge amount of scotch. But the next morning, my resting heart rate was elevated by like 25%.
Wow.
My heart rate variability was down by like 25%, and my recovery was at 22%, which is normally somewhere, my recovery is normally somewhere between 60 and 80%, even
Nice.
after a hard workout, because I try to get good rest. But that alcohol, just those 2 drinks, threw it completely out the window. And
Yeah.
I felt like shit the next day. But it's not just the alcohol, but it's some of the other things that we've talked about, not necessarily in this season, but others, is sugar, right? How much sugar can make you feel like shit, not just physically, but mentally, what that
Yeah.
can do to
Emotionally.
you, emotionally, what that can do
Mhm.
to you. So yeah,
Yeah.
maintaining that healthy body allows you to help maintain the healthy mind. Again, what we've talked about, that the two are inextricably intertwined. So yeah, 100%.
I think another, thing that help me kind of stay on this path is, creating happiness for other people.
Mm,
I mean, and
giving.
with that, I mean, I put that could be done in so many different, just even saying thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, just to somebody that, like I saw my mailman the other day as I was leaving the building, and one thing I learned from you, John, this season, or I heard enough times, and I start saying this to cops and public servants, service people. I'm like, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I saw, well, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
That goes a long way. And I mean, I'm a veteran, and I see
Yeah.
people in uniform, and I still say thank you. I say thank you for your service.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So I mean, this past week I was down in Orlando at this big conference, and I saw a lot of service members there in uniform, and I was like, hey, thanks for your service. And they're like, oh yeah, thank you, and just thank you for saying it. But then they could see, because I wear a little pin that shows that I'm a veteran in the Navy. Then they could see that I had served too, and they're like, well, thank you for yours. And it's kind of like this, but it's a great way to express that gratitude. But in expressing that gratitude, as altruistic as that may seem, it's also good for you.
Yeah,
Right? There is goodness in expressing that thanks, whether it's
Mhm.
for the veteran, whether it's for first responder, whether it's for the person sweeping the streets, saying thank you and expressing that gratitude. It's good for you. It's
Mhm.
good for you. So
It's
why
good.
not do it?
It's
Right.
good for the world. I mean,
It
for
is.
sure. And I do, the city's getting a kind of a bad rap. I mean, and let me just say, one thing about I've been in New York City for 19 years. Like, I've had my New York experience. I've had, one maybe incident or something like that where someone took a fucking swing at me or something like that, like try to sucker punch me or something like one. But and like, and the city, just the news, just fucking, they just have to rip on something.
Well, that's what the
It's
news
like,
does, man.
yeah, it's all. I mean,
Which is,
and it's like it's
that's
not, the
another
city's
thing.
not bad. Yeah, go ahead.
That's
Yeah,
another thing, man. Talked about having people who bring drama into your life.
the fucking news.
Cut out the fucking drama from the news, right?
Exactly.
That's what sells in the news. So when you watch
Exactly.
the news 24/7, that's what you think is going on in the world. Yes, there is bad stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm not naive to where the point, like, I walk around where there's no bad stuff happening. I know
Yeah.
that bad shit happens. I know
Mhm.
that. But there's also a lot of good shit that you don't see on the news. A lot of good stuff that you don't see on social media, and that's that's the other side. So you've got news media that's always covering the negative because that's what sells, but also some of the social media that's out there is also
Mm.
covering negative stuff because that's what sells on social media. So look for the bright spots. There are good news channels. There's good news social media. Look for
Mhm.
some of that stuff that's going to help to change your perspective and your view on things. That's going to help you to live that, I think, more grateful, that attitude, that proverbial attitude of gratitude.
Yeah.
That's so helpful to you as an individual, but also us as a society.
And I think you could also use the social. I mean, I've been using my social media platform to inspire other people.
Absolutely,
Like that's. I mean, I
absolutely.
fucking read. I read verses from books. You know what I mean? It's like, something like, oh, hey, this is really, a
Yeah,
mindfulness teacher. We have this platform.
yeah,
That's what I do with my life and my time. And it's just, I just want people. Hey, I'm just reading, or like, just using, instead of it being like, oh, look at me, or look at my accomplishment, or look at my vacation, or look at my body, whatever it is, and and,
right.
and don't say I've been guilty of that shit too in some ways, or I'm just like, hey, I'm having a fun time, whatever fucking country I'm in, or
Yeah,
wherever I'm with my family or something like that. So I guess there's also, just like me, I do kind of the same thing, in some ways, but like not, whatever. I'm posting because I don't know. It's a thing, but
yeah,
also posting it to like inspire other people. I think
sure.
that's a big thing you can do, is like use those channels to inspire other people and challenge other people. That's what I'm doing with the whole, the treadmill challenge. Like, who's next? And I'll
Yep.
tell you what, with that challenge and being consistent is key here as well. With that, with this kind of thing, this inspiration that I'm trying, people are like, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. Oh, what's that like?
Mhm.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Like, and we'll have all these little back end conversations through my DM. And I'm like, great. Awesome. I'm so
that's
glad you're
awesome.
doing it. Let me know how you feel. Post.
Yeah,
So you use all these, like, it's also part of that influence we talked about, that Dr. Rob talks about, and if Fox and Friends, if you will, is one of your friends on a regular basis, it's like, well, is that really helping me uplift
I
my
mean,
life? Is it,
either side,
either
really.
side?
I mean,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
either side.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, it's all drama. It's just,
yeah.
everyone, ugh, it's awful. Um, and
Well,
yeah.
this show, I believe that many of our guests, and again, I not to toot our own horn, but I think a lot of the content that we put out there is uplifting and inspiring. But there's other shows similar to us that are putting out great stuff. Shows that we've been on that are putting out great stuff that are
Mhm.
inspiring and uplifting to individuals and to society, humanity, at large. So yeah, look for that. That's also going to help to bring you up, um, and then connecting, right?
Mhm.
Connecting with maybe other listeners of the show, connecting with us. I'd love to be connected with you guys, and then connecting with those other people who inspire you. I think that's going to really help to continue to put you on that positive trajectory in life,
Yeah.
in making the changes that you want to make, to live that happier, healthier, more authentic, more vulnerable, stronger, all these positives that you want to bring into your life. And then, the last one, and then I'll shut up, is like our retreat, right?
Yeah.
Our retreat was good for those who attended 100%. I mean, I know that every person that walked away from those retreats, it helped them, but it also helped us. I know doing that retreat helped me probably more than it helped the attendees. And
Same.
that comes back to giving back that Will was talking about before. Find a way to serve others and pay it forward, and you are going to feel happier and healthier. For the veterans or transitioning service members who are looking to get out here soon, one of the things that I hear time and time again when I'm talking to a veteran or a transitioning service member is, I feel a loss of purpose, a loss of mission.
Yeah.
Well, the overarching purpose and mission of what you did in the military was service. Now that you hang up the uniform, that doesn't mean you have to stop serving. Yeah, sure, you're not serving in uniform anymore, but find a way to serve your family, serve your community, serve your society, serve your friends and your colleagues. Continue serving. And that's where I feel we as human beings are going to find that sense of purpose. Again, whether it's service members, veterans, or anyone else, find a way to serve.
Absolutely. And in that, and when service also brings out that common humanity, that heart energy again,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, 'cause it's a higher, it's not all about me. I mean, even though I'm doing it or whatever, right. And serving in that way. And there's obviously a selfish reward that comes, but that's just natural. Everything is in yin and yang. Everything is in opposition, So if I'm giving to somebody else, I'm giving to myself in some ways too, because of just the natural feelings that come up from giving. And that's part of living in service as well, is giving. But on that retreat, John, like, and this goes out, it's amazing if you just, community is so important. Getting around, not just, or practicing in a group is amazing. Like, so maybe go to a group yoga class, or go to a group meditation, or go to a, workshop or something like that. That it just, there's another level of inspiration when people act. I mean, virtual space, it does work. I mean, actually we're going to have her on the show, hopefully next season, Kristen Neff, who is, she wrote Fierce Compassion and Self-Compassion. And she's like the guru right now in the world that is really trying to, make self-compassion very practicable, if you will, for people, and break it down in a way that's very meaningful and can be actuated. And so I took there's 100 people on a virtual, and it was great. It was great to connect in that space. And then I shut off, and it's just like, okay, I'm still back in my apartment, But to be in a physical space with somebody and really feeling that energy of community as you kind of work as a community towards a common, whatever goal or just the same work that you're doing is very inspiring. And on the Durango retreat, I couldn't believe, John, how, how the simplest practices could have still such I think is simple, because I've been practicing for, a couple decades now. But if new students and new people to these practices and getting on putting their first foot on the path of mindfulness and all the wonderful things that we've talked about on the show that include mindfulness. It's just the simplest, whether it's taking that walk or, breath or whatever, it could really start to make some significant change, because and part of that is getting out of our mind, knowing our mind that it's just a tool, and we don't have to listen to it all. We don't have to listen to it at all if we don't want to, and using it as a tool, and then kind of stripping all that stress, stripping all that anxiety is what, kind of where a lot of these practices start. Or start for a lot of people. And then it's just like, whoa, things start to open. My heart, I begin to experience, is not just an organ, right? But actually something that has its own intelligence.
Right.
And it's like, and it's amazing when, it's awesome. And so that, I don't know, it's I bring that up because that just had a really profound impact. That was not our season. It wasn't an episode, but it's something we talked about every fucking week that we had going up and afterwards and stuff like that. I mean, that's really, and it's helped me as a teacher to understand that I don't have to, it doesn't have to be the most intense breath practice or yoga practice or pose. It's the little things. It's the little things that remind us
Add up.
that we have a body, we have a mind, we have a breath, we have a heart, we have other people, right? And what is the ingredients that we need to put in, right? The input we need in order to activate the best parts of ourselves.
Right.
And we're activating and pursuing and practicing those ingredients to find the best parts of ourselves. Again, we get rewarded. Things start to change in our lives, and change is incremental as well. Sometimes you have a massive, it's like boom, like we might just shift really quickly because of some sort of experience. But typically it's just little bits at a time, little bits up at a time. And they do add up.
It adds up.
It really does.
It's the old James Clear Atomic Habits. If you haven't read that, it's
great book.
just making the tiniest changes. It adds up and sets you up for dramatic change in the long run. So I think that kind of wraps it up, man. We've talked about how the season changed us, and we're looking forward to season 6. Definitely got some great episodes lined up.
What guests do we have? We have guests lined up already, don't we? Who do we have lined up?
You talked about Kristen Neff. We've
Kristen, that we're trying to get her. No,
yeah,
that's like, don't take my word. I'm not.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about the guests so much because the guests are great, but the topics.
Okay, yeah, both.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I love our guests. Don't get me wrong, but we're a topic based show rather than just guest based, right?
Yeah.
And
mindfulness based, topic based.
Right. Yeah. We've had some people reach out to us about stuff that is totally not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Anyhow, so we're going to be talking about mindfulness in schools next season, which will be great because the earlier we can start this in our lives, the better it is for us in the long run. We're going to be talking about male the changing the lifespan of males and changing that discrepancy, male loneliness. What else? Jed Diamond. I think he's coming on to talk about the age gap kind of resilience.
Oh yeah.
With Prime Hall. He's a Marine veteran, Marine Raider veteran. We're gonna have some great guests and great topics that we have
the ketamine coming up. We're gonna
have the ketamine, and we're gonna be talking about that and how that therapy changes us. And So for our audience, I'm gonna wrap it up here in a second with a closing breath. But thank you for joining us for not just this episode, but for the season. Thank you for going on the journey with us, not just for the episode, not just for the season, but for all our episodes, all our seasons. If you haven't been with us for all the episodes, all the seasons, please go back, check out what we've covered. Again, we're topic based, and you look at, you scroll through our list of episodes, and I'm sure that there are some episodes in there that you need to hear. And if it's not for you, maybe your friends, your family, check it out and share it with those you love, and help this society become a better place, this planet, this earth become a better place. So that said, I'm going to wrap it up with a closing practice. Before I do that, check us out on YouTube. Again, youtube.com/@Men Talking Mindfulness, youtube.com @Men Talking Mindfulness. How did I screw that?
In case you forgot.
I screwed that up, right? Is what it is. For those tuning in live, do what is safe and comfortable. For those who are listening later, do the same. Get into a comfortable position that is safe for you. And let's just bring your attention to your breath, not forcing anything just yet, just noticing the physical sensations of the breath, the rise and fall of your diaphragm, the expansion and contraction of your belly and chest. Notice how the air feels as it enters your body versus how it feels as it leaves. imagine your breath going down into your lungs, providing you that life force, that energy, that oxygen. And as it leaves, it is cleansing your body of toxins and waste. And we'll conclude with 2 deep cleansing breaths together. Begin by emptying your lungs. Empty, 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 bringing that navel to your spine. Holding empty at the bottom. Deep breath in. Filling your lungs all the way to the top. Hold full. And release. 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 Holding empty at the bottom. Last breath in together. All the way like a big balloon, filling, inflating, inflating. Hold at the top. And relax and let go. And as you breathe that breath out, do it some micro movements. And this is a conclusion of season 5. Wow. Can't believe it, man. Over 100 actual episodes. We've got some bonus episodes in there too, but over 100 episodes of Men Talking Mindfulness. Will, it's been an honor going on this journey with you, and I look forward to continuing on this journey with you, brother. And for those who tuned in, thank you for tuning in. Again, this is the last episode we'll have really recorded this season. We'll put some other ones pre-recorded, some old ones we're going to bring back as replays. But happy holidays to those who are listening prior to happy holidays. And we're going to rebroadcast that, how to have those happy holidays with less stress, less anxiety. But yes, enjoy the holidays. Happy New Year. And we will see you in season 6 in 2023. Will, over to you, man.
Just a big thank you for everyone that's tuned in this season and all our new listeners. Thank you for being here. And, again, thanks for growing the show by sharing or maybe taking a screenshot and be like, hey, listen to Men Talking Mindfulness. But yeah, hey, thanks, John. And it's been a pleasure to work with you, to work with Lindsay, our little team that we have around, the Men Talking Mindfulness. And it's just been an honor. And I couldn't be happier, John, with where the show is, where we're going, how it's going, and how our relationship and how our relationship keeps changing because of the show, but also how our lives keep changing and how we keep changing the lives of other people because of the show. And it just brings a lot of, it just feels great, John. So thank you, everybody. And
thank you, everybody.
Yeah, have a fantastic holiday.
Until next time.
Peace. Thank you.
Joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out Men Talking Mindfulness